When I first learned that Ai Weiwei's artwork is banned in China, I felt both shocked and curious. Ai Weiwei is not just an artist. He's someone who uses his work to question power, expose injustice, and speak up for people who can't. My reaction was like this because I think that art should be a space for free expression and not something controlled by fear or politics. I think people should be able to put out what they want and not be shut down. Because from a logical perspective, silencing artists limits creativity and hides the important truths from society that people try to share. From an ethical point of view, it's wrong to punish someone simply just for sharing their perspective. Ai Weiwei's work challenges the Chinese government's official narratives, and instead of debating him, they simply just censor him and shut him down. This all made me want to explore this issue even more deeply, and really to understand why governments fear art and why one man's voice, Ai Weiwei, can be seen as such a threat to their entire political system. Ai Weiwei's ban is controversial because it sits at the intersection of all art, politics, and freedom of speech. Supporters of the Chinese government claim his work is anti-China and destabilizing because it really exposes corruption, criticizes the human rights abuses, and questions their national pride. They argue that such messages could spark unrest and harm China's image. But on the other hand, many people believe that Ai Weiwei is simply telling the truth and just using his platform to hold those in power accountable. This issue is complex because it forces us to ask, should a government really have the right to silence voices that disagree with it? Or should artists have complete freedom to speak out, even if it offends or challenges authority? The controversy matters because it reflects a bigger global struggle between control and freedom, secrecy and transparency, and fear and truth. Ai Weiwei's case is just one example, but it speaks to how fragile artistic freedom can be. Censorship of art is not new. It has been used by governments for centuries to protect their power and shape public thinking. During the Cultural Revolution in China, which went from 1966 to 1976, the government banned works that did not align with communist ideology. This erased entire art forms, rewrote history, and silenced intellectuals. Museums were stripped of their artifacts, and artists were forced into labor or re-education camps. Ai Weiwei's treatment mirrors this past. Even though it's happening in a modern China that claims to be open to the world, history shows that controlling art is often a way to control ideas, because creative expression really does have the power to spark movements, challenge myths, and inspire change. Ai Weiwei's sculptures, installations, and new photographs threaten that control by making people question authority and see issues from new perspectives. By comparing this ban to Cultural Revolution, we can see how patterns of silencing dissent continue, even if the methods and political landscape look very different today. Ai Weiwei's story isn't only about China though. I realize it's part of a big global pattern. In Russia, musicians have been banned for criticizing the war in Ukraine. In the Middle East, poets have been jailed for political verses that challenge authority. Even in democratic countries, certain books, plays, and artworks are sometimes removed from public spaces just because they confront uncomfortable truths or challenge the status quo. These examples show that freedom of expression is always at risk, no matter the country or political system. Ai Weiwei's international fame gives him a louder voice and some protection, but there's so many lesser-known artists that face the same pressures just without the global media attention or legal support. The worldwide reaction to his censorship through exhibitions, protests, academic talks, and online campaigns highlights how art really can unite people, even across borders, and inspire solidarity among strangers. It also proves that banning art doesn't erase it. In many cases, it spreads the message further and makes it even more powerful. This topic really connected to me personally through MEI because when I visited museums and landmarks like the Louvre in Paris, the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, the Prado Museum in Madrid, and the Musée d'Orsay in Paris, I saw how art is celebrated, preserved, and shared openly. These places display works that sometimes challenge religion, politics, or culture, yet they are still shown for all the world to see. Walking through those galleries made me realize how powerful it is when art can exist without fear of censorship. If those same works, like Picasso's political paintings or Gaudi's daring architectural designs, had been silenced, the world would have lost not only its beauty, but also important ideas and history. Thinking about Ai Weiwei, it's striking how different the experience is in China, where his art can't be displayed at all and it was completely banned and censored. Visiting those museums made me really appreciate that artistic freedom is not something that every country allows, and it's something we should really try to protect. So in conclusion, the banning of Ai Weiwei's work in China is more than just a story about one artist. It's a warning about what happens when power fears expression. My claim is that silencing artists harms not only the artist, but society as a whole. Without voices like Ai Weiwei's, injustice stays hidden, history gets rewritten, and people lose the chance to question what they're really told. This matters today because censorship is not just a Chinese issue. It happens to so many countries, in so many forms, like removing books in schools, to blocking journalists online, to quietly erasing dissent from social media. Ai Weiwei once said, "Without freedom of speech, there is no modern world, just a barbaric one." That quote speaks to the heart of this issue. When governments decide which truths can be told, the world becomes smaller, darker, and less humane. Ai Weiwei's story reminds us that art is dangerous to those in power, precisely because it inspires people to think. And if thinking freely becomes a crime, then freedom itself is at risk for everyone.